Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Wednesday, February 11th. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. An embezzlement investigation has rocked the arts community in Fresno.
So really the question is, if Fresno Arts Council is no longer doing this, their contract is terminated, what happens next and who does it? Is there a community organization out there?
The nonprofit that managed millions of taxpayer dollars is now at the center of a police and FBI investigation. And artists in the city are asking what's next. We'll break down the story, but first, these news headlines. Clovis will be the latest city to add the sign reading "In God We Trust" to its city council chambers. The city council voted to approve the move following a community survey. One council member did raise questions at the meeting this week, though, about the survey size. According to reports, only a little over 500 people responded to the survey, asking if that motto should be added to the council chambers. Clovis has a population of nearly 130,000. A Los Angeles federal judge on Monday ruled California has the power to ban federal agents from wearing masks while conducting immigration enforcement. However, the judge blocked the law, saying it unconstitutionally discriminates against federal officers. Cap Radio's Gerardo Zavala has more.
The state cannot enforce the law because it currently excludes state law enforcement from the ban requirement. In response, Democratic State Senator Scott Wiener, who authored the law, announced new legislation to include state officers. He says banning masks is critical to ensure federal immigration officers can be held accountable.
As long as they're wearing those masks, they're going to feel like they have impunity and no accountability. And the first step towards accountability is showing who they are and acting like normal law enforcement, which means showing your face.
But there are some exceptions, including for undercover work, protective gear, or medical masks. A companion law, the No Vigilantes Act, was upheld, meaning the state can enforce a requirement that officers must display visible identification, such as a name or badge and number. In Sacramento, I'm Gerardo Zavala.
Researchers are warning about damage from illegal marijuana farms in California. They're finding poisonous pesticides and fertilizers are damaging ecosystems, killing plants and animals, and even entering watersheds. One researcher has documented more than 7,000 abandoned marijuana sites, many on public lands and in sensitive places like forests. The study, which is still in progress, shows California's Department of Fish and Wildlife has been cleaning up messes on state land, but progress has been slow. State lawmakers commissioned a study to develop a cleanup strategy. It's funded by tax revenue from legal marijuana sales and should be complete next year. Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley of Rockland says he's working on multiple proposals to reduce taxes for Californians. Kiley says he's preparing legislation to cap how high a state's gas tax can be, noting California has the highest gas tax in the country. He also says he wants to limit the impact of a proposed state wealth tax on California's roughly 200 billionaires.
We are preparing legislation that we'll be introducing soon that would preempt that provision that would purport to give the state the authority to tax the assets of former residents.
The proposal would impose a one-time 5% tax on residents with assets over $1 billion, and it would apply retroactively to anyone living in the state as of January 2026, even if they leave before the measure takes effect after the November election. If you're a farmer itching for some shiny new equipment, Tulare is calling your name. The world's largest agricultural exhibition officially kicked off on Tuesday. President Trump delivered an opening day video message to farmers, the first sitting president to do so. The nearly 60-year-old World Ag Expo is rolling out the latest in farming tech, equipment displays, and plenty of hands-on experiences. And people from over 70 different countries attend the expo each year. The event runs through Thursday.
Central Valley Daily is a production of KVPR. I'm the Morning Edition host, Justin Sasher. While you're making your first cup of coffee, I'm preparing the news you need to get your day started. With Morning Edition, you also get national news, context, and analysis to keep you informed. Listen weekday mornings on your radio until 9 on KVPR 89.3 and 89.1. You can also stream us online at kvpr.org through your smart speaker and on the KVPR app.
And now to our main story. A former employee of the Fresno Arts Council is under investigation for allegedly embezzling public funds to the tune of $1.5 million. For some background, the organization has long been responsible for administering arts grants through Measure P. And Measure P is a 3/8-cent sales tax in Fresno. The proceeds, which are in the multi-millions, fund community parks and arts programs. Our news partner Fresnoland first reported the story over the weekend, and it has left the Fresno arts community in an uproar. Since news broke of the alleged embezzlement, the City of Fresno has terminated its contract with the Arts Council, and the future of who administers that Measure P money hangs in the balance. In a statement yesterday afternoon, the city placed blame squarely on the Arts Council and said it would work to recover the funds up to and including litigation. To break down the situation a little further, Fresnoland's Omar Rashad came to the studios, and he starts our conversation today by recapping what happened earlier this week.
So actually, as of a community meeting on Monday night, City Manager Georgianne White and Councilmember Miguel Arias shared some pretty key details about this ongoing law enforcement investigation. And one of those details is City Manager White confirmed that all of the $1.5 million in question here is actually public funds that the Fresno Arts Council has.
Okay, so taxpayer money.
Correct.
And when you say public funds, is that Measure P?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So for folks who don't know, not to belabor this, but Measure P funds a lot of things in our community. Can you just outline a couple things?
Yeah. Everything from local parks, upgrades or new parks. It funds local arts programs. These are millions of dollars that come through from local sales tax revenue. And the sales tax revenue is essentially set aside for Measure P. And a small subset, just about 12% of Measure P revenue, is what local arts organizations are depending on for arts funding, essentially. And Measure P is still pretty fresh, still pretty new. This tax revenue has a 3-decade-long, lifespan, and we haven't even gotten through the first quarter, the first fifth of that even. So, wow. Yeah.
And what are a couple of organizations that you spoke to or that people might know of who have benefited from Measure P?
Yeah, I wish I had a list. But I mean, we're talking about dozens of organizations locally that have applied that are depending on arts funding. And in this case, could be left in the lurch because the second round of Measure P grant funds that were distributed, not all of it was distributed. And so there are arts organizations that are depending on that funding, everything from payroll to, having the funding to launch the programs that they are contracted to launch. And yeah, we have a serious question about what happens to the recipients of the second round of Measure P grant money. And also what happens in the third round, because that money hasn't been distributed yet, hasn't been allocated yet. And now that the agreement between the city and the Fresno Arts Council to administer, the Arts Council administering these public funds, that contract has been terminated since this report of embezzlement has been made to law enforcement. The real question right now is who would distribute that money? And I think in the coming days or weeks, city leaders will actually decide what that looks like. Yeah.
I want to circle back to that public meeting in a second, but first, let's go back to Friday, February 6th. That's when Fresno City Manager Georgianne White announced that the city would be terminating its contract with the Fresno Arts Council. So tell us a little more about what led to this decision, what's been confirmed so far, public reaction, all of that.
Yeah. So based on, statements from Fresno Police Department spokesperson, the local law enforcement found out about this report of embezzlement on Friday. And that is the same day that City Manager Georgianne White terminated the contract between the city and the Fresno Arts Council to administer these public funds. And, City Manager White at the community meeting on Monday made clear to everyone in attendance that it was a mutual termination, that this wasn't just the city manager making this decision. The Fresno Arts Council and its leaders were interested in moving in that direction, considering the report to law enforcement about the embezzled funds. Yeah.
Do we know who made the report to law enforcement?
My understanding is that the Fresno Arts Council and city leaders had conversations, and out of those conversations is when it was made clear that law enforcement needs to be involved. That's at least what I've understood so far. And yeah, actually at the community meeting on Monday, City Manager White said that law enforcement only found out on Friday, right?
So this is fast moving.
I'm fast moving, but also it's like not even half a week since law enforcement started investigating.
Yeah.
It's just so early. But yeah, there are some details that, city leaders have shared on the record, including at the meeting on Monday night. Yeah.
Makes me wonder, by it becoming public so fast, if that could affect the investigation.
It's typically not common, for police investigations to be discussed in this level of detail. Mm-hmm. But I do think that there are some unique factors at play here. You have public grant recipients who could be left in the lurch, who are asking questions about money that was allocated towards them, but they haven't received it yet. Those are some serious questions. And then also you have the future. You've got more than 20 years of Measure P left, right? And that means 20 years of funding for local arts organizations. And right now, the way Measure P is written in the city's ordinance is that an outside organization, specifically Fresno Arts Council, would be administering those funds. So really the question is, if Fresno Arts Council is no longer doing this, their contract is terminated, what happens next and who does it? Is there a community organization out there? City Manager White has made clear that she wants the city to be administering these public funds. And I think one thing that actually did come up at the Monday evening community meeting is community members who said that they don't trust the city to do that.
I feel like the elephant in the room is the question of who did it. Do we know?
So as of right now, I've not heard any names on the record, and certainly law enforcement would be unwilling to share any names on the record, especially before charges are filed. But there's no conclusion to this investigation that doesn't include the name of the person that the Arts Council says, carried out quote unquote unauthorized financial transactions. So at the conclusion of this investigation, we'll know those details. But as of right now, it hasn't even been half a week since law enforcement have been investigating, and there are no names at the moment.
Okay. Lastly, do we have an idea yet of what will happen with the remaining Measure P funds? Because I understand that the Fresno Arts Council will return the remaining funds, but do we have an idea of what could happen next if future grants are in jeopardy?
Yeah. I mean, all of this really comes down to what city leaders decide in the coming days and in coming weeks. And there are definitely a lot of conversations being had. There's a big conversation with legal counsel that's been had on Tuesday at the time that listeners will hear this, and we'll definitely know more soon.
Omar Rashad, investigative reporter with our news partner, Fresnoland. Thanks so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
And that is today's show. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.